Welcome everyone to another episode of Beth Bell Live. I'm happy to have you here on the channel. If you're watching live, I see we've got some live people on already. Thanks for joining. And if you're watching on replay, thanks for joining in. You can still ask questions. So if you're live, please put them in the comments and that will get us to get you right into queue. And if you're watching on replay, you can also put them in the comments. I love the engagement there. Or if you want a little bit more privacy, you can go over to bethbell.me/question and put your question there. Each week is a lot of fun because we talk about what's on your mind because ultimately it's in your heart. And we want to find out what is your state of the heart. So if you're interested in that, you can go to bethbell.me and take the state of the heart assessment and find out, are you blocked? Are you broken? Are you healing? Or are you whole? And you'll get some tips and some tools to help you in whatever stage you're in. But each week on the show, Sundays 11:11, we dive deep and I answer questions, bring insights through to help you really just move through some of those wobbly bits in life. It can be about work, about romance, about friends, and obviously family creates a lot of discord for us sometimes in relationships. But it's always because there is a juicy life lesson to learn. So I always love you to jump on live and ask questions. And we've got a live studio audience today. So I'm always excited about that. It always brings a fun energy. And we'll get started though with a pre-submitted question. And please, put your questions in the chat. All right, so the first question. My relationships are shifting as my spiritual journey is starting to take priority. My concern is that my partner is not as interested in being involved with activities I'm wanting to attend. Do you think we'll grow apart because of this? I think this is a question that a lot of people are struggling with. I'm going to say struggle because we awaken at a time in our life that's part of our soul's plan. And it's often not part of our life plan. And we get so programmed to have a life plan, right? Get married by such and such a date. And I'm being a little facetious, but have children by such and such a time frame. Get the job, get the home, get the all of these programs are really ingrained oftentimes in us to meet these expectations. And so when we awaken, it feels oftentimes very unexpected to ourselves and also to our partners. I'm saying, like, if you really get one of those big awakenings, like where you feel like you got hit over the head. Other people are more softly awakening, but either way, you are expanding. Your consciousness is expanding. Your questioning is getting deeper. You're wanting to know a little bit more each and every day about your soul's plan. Synchronicities are probably happening. You're interested in manifesting. You're wanting to co-create. You're wanting to really harness the magic that you've brought into this lifetime. And sometimes the ones we love the most, they like to poo-poo all of our magic because they want to say, oh, it's not grounded in science, or oh, it's not this, or oh, it's not that, because they're just not there yet. So I get your concern. Now, your question was more specific to activities. And I think that this is a really great spot to start, because if you mean by activities something like maybe kirtan or meditation, or maybe you're wanting to do more yoga or things that are really helping you to integrate that mind, body, soul component, then I think it's a perfect time to bring your partner along. Now, it's a bit tricky because sometimes the partners say, well, I don't want to do that. But I would offer to them the value that you're feeling from whatever the activity is that you're doing, and not try to place an expectation on them that they're going to get the exact same value at the end, because that starts to just create more discord. And then you start to kind of grow apart just simply by expecting them to have whatever, a Kundalini experience, or, a big awakening, or, oh, I went to the cosmos and back. And your partner's like, what the heck are you talking about? So I think there's like a gentleness that we want to approach the activities. And when we come out of the activities with our partners that may not be on the same awakening, soul quickening speed, is we want to just be gentle and ask questions. Do it from a place of really genuinely wanting to know, because I think what's going to happen is you're going to have more engaged conversation. And that's where it gets really fun, is when you're engaged, even though you don't agree, even though you don't see things the same way. I think you're going to find that your vibration, as it raises and as your consciousness expands, does have an impact on your partner, who may still be a little bit more asleep. And I think you know what I mean by asleep. I don't mean like sleeping in your bed dreaming. I mean that sometimes they're just not ready to poke their toe through the veil and to see some of the illusions that are really in front of us because we're deep in the programs. So keep going. I think the activities, whatever they are, because if you're on live with me, let me know. But the activities that you're engaged in are great. They're great for you, and I think they'll be great for your partner. I think the more you can bring them along up front, the better, because that way you don't just completely go apart and you have like completely different schedules. And of course, you can have interdependence and be independent from them. I'm not saying you have to do everything together, but the more you can bring them on in the beginning, the more you can have some shared experiences and some engaged conversation after those experiences. All right, if you'd like more support or more insights on that, I'm happy to go deeper into that if you're on with me live or afterwards or in a private session. All right, okay, I've got another live question coming in. With all the chaos and heartbreaking news seemingly every day now, how do we stay grounded and have compassion, but also take care of ourselves and also see the opportunities as there always is? Yes, great question. And I love how you ended it, which is there are always opportunities. So whatever we focus on grows. If we focus on the opportunities, and I know that you know this, but we really have to train our brain to see the opportunities and not see the things that are causing us the emotional feelings. Now, with that said, I highly encourage everyone to also feel the feeling in the moment, but let it pass, because as you know, we get sort of addicted to certain feelings. And when we're addicted to it, we just kind of keep attracting situations and people and places that evoke that same emotion. So I am not saying to ignore your emotion when you have it, because I feel that that's definitely part of it here, is that you're feeling the emotion. You're like, okay, what do I do about this? Like, how do I move through this? And how do I stay focused on the opportunity? And I think at the end of each day, what's coming to me is journaling about the opportunities that you saw. The other thing that's coming to me, to be positive, right? To anchor yourself back into the positivity, and to also tell your subconscious mind that when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to be looking for the opportunities, because it's really hard. I don't know. I mean, based on your career, your environment, where you live, there's different, and I'm answering this a little bit more for the collective, right? That it depends upon how much you're getting slammed with this. You may be able to shelter yourself somewhat, like I feel I can. I don't have a TV. I don't watch the news. I don't watch those really charged YouTube videos. I'm very monitoring of what I get exposed to, because I don't want that to change my state. Now, I get for you that there is, like, you have to participate in this, 3D reality for your career and for lots of reasons. So I get that. So journaling at the end of the day is a big one, I think, to help shift the opportunities that have come to you and the opportunities that you're looking for. Now, the other thing that feels really strong coming in is that it's so important that we don't allow ourselves to get into the depths of the disappointment that comes when we witness so many people unconscious. And of course, again, I don't mean that they're like unconscious, but I mean spiritually awakening wise unconscious, that they are so focused on a platform or an idea or money or whatever their driving force is, that we really get ourselves in a place where we step out of the disappointment, because that disappointment is a vibration that you take in. And as empaths, we take this in and we feel this innately, unknowingly a lot of times. And so the suggestion is again, allow yourself to feel it, but then go, okay, I got it. I'm back in that same feeling of disappointment. I'm back in that same feeling of frustration. And stop yourself right there in that moment. And maybe you've got a mantra you want to say. Maybe you want to look at somebody in the eyes with your own sparkles. Okay, I know that sounds weird, but that's what's coming to me to say, meaning that you show up with your soul in that moment and you just give them a second more of eye contact when appropriate, because I know in work situations we want to be a little bit careful and use our discernment. But what I'm suggesting is that you just allow people to be seen. And when you can look at them with the sparkles in your eyes, you do have the ability to diffuse them, but don't have the expectation that you will. Because if you have that expectation, oh, I'm going to look them in the eyes and then they're going to diffuse, chances are that's not going to happen. And so it's really like coming from that place of pure innocence. And I know that you do this already, but it's a extra burst, if you will, of I'm going to see things differently. I am going to show others through the sparkles in my eyes that I'm not buying into this bullshit. And it's not an argument. It's not a conversation. It's not something you're going to get out of it in that moment. You're just simply going to look at them and allow them to have their experience and then walk away. There's times in my life when there's been some really charged topics. And I just said to myself, I am going to give this particular topic 15 minutes for the entire day. So if somebody eats up 10 minutes of it or 5 minutes of it early in the morning, then of course, I'm not like seriously timing it, but just in my mind, I say, I'm only going to give this topic this much time. And then I walk away from those topics. And sometimes I just had to say to people like, I just have, I have a filter for this because it's depending upon the person you're speaking to. I know if you're in, a big corporate world, you can't always use your more spiritual language, but I often just say like, oh, I have a limit and I've reached it today and let's move on. So especially in today's political environment, you know what? I have a cap for political discussions and I've reached it already. Let's move on to what we can do right here, right now, you and me. What can we do? And not get into the complaining and the shaming and all of that energy that just takes us down a hole, because then we're trying to have an argument in a lot of ways with someone about a platform or an idea or a belief. And we are going to have different beliefs than our brothers and sisters out there, our colleagues, our family, our friends. And so the more we can anchor in to just allowing people to have their lens and their view, because they've worked all those years, however many years they're alive, to build that narrative of who they think they are and who they think other people are in the world and what those people are doing to them, and on and on and on. We know that we're attracting people and we're attracting energy and we're attracting situations to help us in our growth. So I feel for you. I feel for you in multiple ways, but I also feel for you that this is so divinely guided, as I know you do too, but it's getting through that frustration, and it's just having a way. And you know what else is coming? If this resonates for you, is when you're in that and you walk away from it, that you just kind of take the energy like this and you just go out the side. Or maybe you just take a couple of really deep breaths. And I do this a lot. I don't even know why a lot of times. And I find myself doing it. And I used to feel really silly about it, but now I just do it. But I'm walking along and I'll feel energy and I just go, and I just blow it out. And it's kind of strange, but do that in an appropriate place. Maybe you have to go to the restroom, or maybe you just do it. Who cares? Like, who cares if you see someone sees you doing that? So I think that it's coming because, like, who cares if you're actually just going like this? Like, hey, like wherever it feels like you're holding that energy or their energy is impacting you, just like, just consciously, you're just telling yourself, your energy body, yeah, I'm just going to be free of this. And I think you're going to find that it really helps shift some things. Okay. All right, let's go here. I want to see if I've got some comments on that specifically. Great insights. Thank you. It's definitely a challenge with the rooms I'm in, but also opportunities to stay in my grace. Focusing on the tools to keep me healthy and in purpose. Yes. And yes, I clear the energy when I leave these situations. Perfect. So you're on it. And I just want to say again that, and I know that you are so in this role for so much more than the job description. And you've signed up for this, and you are, I don't like the word warrior, but it feels like spiritual warrior is really, really perfect for you. That, you know, you're bringing your spirituality into a very corporate, dare I say, masculine focused, money based world. And it's a tough spot to be, but you wouldn't have put yourself there on a soul level if there wasn't something much bigger for you. And so I know you're getting all the lessons from it. And I think just keep doing the clearing work and writing about the opportunities that you see. And it's also coming to me that those opportunities that you're writing down every night are things that are going to be in your book, that you're going to be speaking on all of these, because you are living in the trenches of what it's like to be a spiritual warrior in a very crazy, chaotic world. So yeah, I'm shining the light with you on that. Agreed. Wonderful. Okay. So we've got another comment. You are brilliant, extraordinarily interesting, and beautiful. You should be on national television without any doubt. Yes. Thank you so much. I do envision this platform to be larger and larger each week. So thank you for affirming that. Okay. All right. We're going to keep going here. Anyone in the studio audience, if you feel like you want to jump up, and if you don't, that's fine too. Okay. Generally, I'm a very calm person. In my most recent relationship, I feel highly emotionally triggered about some things my boyfriend does. It's so frustrating, as I wish everything could be easier between us. Yeah, don't we always wish that? Like, why can't it just be ease and grace all the time? And if it was ease and grace all the time, then we probably wouldn't be learning the lessons that we set ourselves up to learn. So while I do agree that ease and grace is something that we can have, I think it's more about achieving a blissfully neutral state, meaning that when you get those highs and those lows, when you get those triggers and you're like, like you're just really, really hitting me, and it's hitting an emotional nerve, that the practice is finding the blissfully neutral state of, okay, what is the lesson in this? You don't always have to go into like some big, long dissertation about it, but you want to get to the trigger and just acknowledge, like, well, what is it within me that I need to take a look at? And yes, it's something coming from them for sure, but it's also something within you that, how quickly can I get back to a neutral state? How quickly can I just come back to my bliss? And it's the same when you dip down. It's like, how can I come back up? How can I recover from these emotional triggers, the triggers that make us just go and do and say things that we wouldn't normally do. Like, maybe we get really, maybe we yell. Maybe we raise our voice, and we don't normally do that. Maybe we're usually more neutral about things, but all of a sudden, like, something that wouldn't normally be a trigger is. So I would really just feel into it. Like, what is it for you that you're really feeling is the reflection, and what kind of attention do you need to place on that feeling, and where is that feeling within you? I know sometimes for me, when I feel anger, because anger is not something that I feel very often, and people that are closest to me can trigger that emotion, and anger is always a suppressed emotion. So it's there's something else in there that is, and welcome it, and don't judge yourself for whatever it is that's coming forward, because it's trying to tell you something. And I love that you can feel that you even have a trigger, and that you recognize that it's something within you that's triggered based on something that is from the external world. Because the minute we try to blame someone else for our triggers, yes, they're part of the equation. I'm not saying that they're not part of it, but the minute we can really take full accountability for just diving deep within ourselves is where you know that you're really ascending on this spiritual awakening journey. All right. If you'd like more, or if there's more that I can share with you on that, please let me know if you're on with us live or on replay. Okay. It looks like we've got a live question in the studio audience. So yeah, let's go for it.
Hi, my name's Dave, and I'm a 40-something male, obviously. And I am struggling with the decision of, I guess, moving forward in relationships when someone doesn't want to have a child versus my kind of life goal, my spiritual plan, more or less, to have a child or children. because I think it brings purpose. And of course, there's many different pathways in one's life to find happiness and purpose. I have a lot of purpose in my life, but that particular goal has been elusive. And I guess my question is, what advice do you give to people who are finding themselves in crossroads about making that decision when they move forward with deciding not wanting to have children or to have children, and how to navigate that space in the dating world, I suppose.
Yeah.
This is a multifaceted question, I suppose, but just wondering on your thoughts and ponderings on that topic.
Thank you for that question, because I think there's so many men out there in the world that have a similar question. So I'm gonna answer probably more for the collective, and then there's going to be bits that I know they'll be specific to you. And I think that when it comes to children, what comes to mind to share is, children bring us karma too. So are we ready to bring on all this karma in our life? So there's an element of like, what is your soul's plan? We don't always know if our soul's plan is to bring in more karma, or if it's to release and to, the word rectify comes, but rectify our own karma in this lifetime. So there's a possibility that is how we know whether we're going to have children or not. Okay, let me just say that in a different way. That you will know when you're supposed to have children or not. You'll just innately know. I don't think you need to struggle with it. And I'm not saying, I know you're struggling with it, but you're genuinely in like a good way struggling with it. Like you're just asking yourself these questions. And I think that from a soul level, when another soul has chosen for this to be a connection, so I believe and know that children, they choose us. They choose us, and we also participate and choose them. So it is very much a soul decision. But a lot of times they're choosing us. So they come in ways that we don't really know, meaning that it may not be that it's your own child. It may not be that you are going to have children with someone. It may be that you meet someone and you adopt a child because somehow something miraculous and random happens where a child gets given to you in some way. And I don't really mean given, but like that there's something that comes forward and you go, oh yeah, this is right. Maybe they already have children. So the reason why I don't know, karma is just coming. It's not, it's just karma is coming to say that try not to think about it too much and be with the partner that you feel is there to help catapult you in your purpose and mission. And if a child is supposed to come through in whatever way, whether it's your child, like your child together that you give birth to, or it's their children that they already have, or it's that you end up adopting or fostering or whatever, because it feels like there is, that you will have a very fatherly role, but it doesn't feel traditional is what's coming to me. That it may not be as traditional as you think. Like, okay, I meet someone, we fall madly in love, and then we have a child together, and then this is my child from, my genetics. And that's where I think the soul contract part is coming forward and the karma part is coming forward, because it feels like there's a soul or two, or maybe more, but that are very much a part of helping you with your karma. But I'm not getting that they're your own DNA. And that's where I think it's also fun, because we oftentimes think, oh, well, our own children, are the closest to us because of our DNA. But it's not necessarily that way. And okay, this is what's coming, but it's I think Spirit's trying to help me clarify the answer. That, for example, I have a dog, and I was absolutely not looking to get a dog. I was living in Bali. I was opening a shop. I had no desire to have a dog. I love dogs, but it was the furthest thing from my mind. And when a friend called me and said, I found this beautiful dog, it was been run over by a car or a motorbike, whatever, I think you need to be its mommy. It's an old soul. I was like, I don't need to be anybody's mommy. Like, I am so busy right now. And the last thing I need is to worry about a puppy chewing, pooping, peeing, whatever. Like, I just didn't have it in me. She said, just come and take a look. And so I said, okay. So I piled in the car with my driver, and I happened to have two 21-year-olds with me and a 9-year-old that came along with me. And they were all laughing in the car. Like, they could already see my soul's plan. And they're like, she's getting a dog. She doesn't know it. And I'm like, I'm not getting a dog. And we get there, and I look at the dog, and I look at the dog's eyes, and I'm like, oh, she's mine. She's mine. It's like, it's a soul contract. Like, I couldn't have guessed it. I couldn't have planned it. My conscious mind didn't want to allow it. But when I saw her, there was no question in my mind, and everything that I thought in my logical mind dropped away about my time and all of it. And she's part of my soul's plan. So she and I have been she's part of helping me clear my karma. She teaches me so much. I didn't think I was going to get it through a dog. And here it was, right? So I feel like I'm not diminishing or making children be the same as dogs, because they're not, because they're very different spirits. But that's what's coming to me, is to just really be in the curiosity of it. And the curiosity of it, because you also said something about dating, like in the dating scene, like I don't remember exactly how you phrased it, but that we make it fun in the discussions when we're dating to see like where we're at. Because I think a lot of women ask that question right away, especially if they're older. And I don't mean old, but like in their late 30s, their 40s, like they're thinking my clock's ticking. And so they're often asking that. And so I think having a fun conversation about that, and maybe just throwing it into a different realm of, how do you feel about, children, and are they part of your soul contract? Like throwing in a word that they might not even know. Like they might be like, a soul contract. Like, what do you mean? Because then it gets you out of the mind a little bit more, and it gets you into like more of a philosophical discussion. Like, okay, well, what's my soul's plan? Like, oh, okay. Well, what do you mean by that? And, and then you come at it from a different angle than like, do you want kids or not kids? Because that feels like so harsh in today's world. Like it's legit. And it's an easy way to do it. But a lot of people, honestly, they don't know if they want kids, or they think they don't want kids. Yes. And then boom, they end up having kids, and they're like, oh my God, this was the best thing that ever happened to me. Right.
Yeah. I like that a lot. The idea of like, speaking it in metaphors versus definitive, do you want children or not, versus like, could you imagine yourself taking care of another soul, or, resonating with another thing's karma? And it could be a dog, it could be a child, and not to compare the two, because they're very different, but they're very similar too, at least in the experience of the attachment.
Yeah. And I feel like children are, and maybe this is just coming for another like juicy conversation to have, with someone, but I feel like to have a child, and a lot of reasons why people have children is not necessarily for the best reasons, but it brings a sense of unity. So, maybe there's a question around, how do you see a child be an extension of love with a partner? Like, hey, let's just say, like, what if we fell madly in love down the road, because you might be on like first, second, third date or whatever, fell madly in love, and we wanted to take our love and our unity to a whole nother level. Do you see how a child might fit into that? Or does a child not feel like that would be part of our love? Just something that's more, fun to talk about, because that oftentimes is what a child is two people coming together, and they have children because they think it's going to save the marriage, right? Like, oh, we think that, oh, if we bring our love together, okay, then we're going to have this little creature. So that's why I think I'm saying it in that way. But you phrase it in a way that makes it like, because it could be a woman that says, I don't want to have children, but then she's like, oh my gosh, I've got this awakened, male in front of me who's talking about like how this could take our relationship into a whole nother exploration of unity of our love, and like how could it grow even more exponentially, or how could it detract from our unity love?
Well, this reminds me of what you're saying initially about, doing activities together.
Yeah.
I think it was a question. I can't remember what it was, but, like it's an expansion of your understanding of each other, rather than like a accessory to add on to save.
Yes.
And that's a really great idea to think of it as, like, because so many times nowadays people just assume, oh, I need to have children in order to fulfill whatever obligations, familial, biologic, whatever, versus just kind of this is a thing that can expand our love versus interfere or just a thing I'm supposed to do. And that's a really nice way of looking at it. Thank you for that.
Yeah, great. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that question. It's
Yeah.
great. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any other people on live that have a question? All right. I'm going to jump back over to some of the pre-submitted. How would you define true love? And how do I know I have it with a beloved? Well, I'm going to give a little tough love. If you are actually asking the question, if you're in a relationship and you're not sure if you have it with your beloved, I would be a little cautious about that, because love is, I think we want to define love in our minds, but love is an experience in our hearts. And when we don't have an open heart, or we have a blocked heart, or maybe even a broken heart, we still try to love people through our minds. And the challenge or the opportunity is always to get back into that vulnerable heart space and feel and experience love there. And there's lots of wobbles all along the way. So you can be with someone who you actually really have, a deep love for, and you can feel it, and it wobbles, because that's where all of the fear comes in and the programs come in. Now, you asked for a definition of true love. And I would say, I don't really like the words true love. I think what we're looking for is pure love, which is unconditional love, which means that you're loving someone without a condition. And as humans, we love to love conditions. So, because our mind is involved, and there's nothing wrong with it per se, but what we're trying to do is get a little bit more out of the mind space and get more into that heart space, so that we can feel more and articulate more from our heart, not just from the mind. So if you're watching the show, I know that you are on your spiritual awakening journey, and that you do have a ton of capacity to have that pure love. The best way to get pure love and experience pure love is to love yourself so much that all you want to do is share it with someone else. And so that is the journey with all of our beloveds, no matter what, if they're romantic or family or friends or colleagues. The journey is to get back to that self-love. And I know that feels like sometimes it's overused, but think about it in a pure love standpoint of unconditional love, which means that you've forgiven yourself and you've forgiven others for the trespasses that you think that they have made upon you, that are not actually, trespasses in the sense that you've called them in. You've asked them, if you've read my book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics, you know that one of my big messages is that all our devils are also our angels. Why? Because they're teaching us a really, really core lesson. And it's always going to come back to boundaries, discernment, self-love. How much do we love ourselves? And how much are we going to take care of ourselves? And in a way that we can still openly share our love with others. So it's not a selfish, self-centered love, but it's a self-love that's very radiating and powerful, because it's innately within us. We're not identifying that love as something coming from outside of us, which we often want to do. Loves me not, right? The little flower where they're picking the petals. It's like we want to move away from those kinds of dossiers of, like what someone did and what it means to love. Does it mean that they love me? They don't love me? Well, they did this, they said that. That's all from the mind. And if we stay in the heart and honor that we're gonna flux, we're always gonna flux from the heart and the mind. It's just part of being human. That's why the whole body, mind, soul is such a big topic, and everyone's trying to integrate the three, because we want to have that somatic feeling in our body, and we want to allow our minds to have some recognition of what's happening. And we also want to be deep in our souls, to actually live our soul's plan, and to be in that depth of love that is so wonderful and juicy to be in. But we got to be there for ourselves first. and then share it with someone else. And that's going to be, I think, your definition of true love. But I would say, that's really pure love, unconditional love. All right. If you have more questions on that, I'm always happy to go deeper into that. Okay, let's jump into the next one. I've had a lot of trauma in my life, and it's impacting all my relationships. I'm tired of the pattern and have been doing work on this, but am exhausted. I want to be in a different place. How can I move through this more quickly so I can get on with my life? In fairness, sometimes quickly is just not the right way to look at it. Because sometimes this is okay. I understand why you're saying quickly, and I'm not trying to dig on you with that. I'm just trying to say that sometimes these things take more time than we think, and we don't want to try to push through something. We want to go through something. So it's sort of that whole David Hawkins power versus force, where we want to feel like we're really flowing through it. And if you're doing the work, you are flowing through it. I also get the feeling that when you've done some of the trauma work, that it's felt very jolting, so it doesn't feel like flowing, and that's okay. Then you just want to keep doing the work, and ask for more flow. So if you're a meditator, as you're meditating, ask just for more flow as you enter into the meditation and as you exit the meditation, and ask that flow be present for you throughout the entire day. Show me, show me, show me how to be in flow, how to be out of the trauma response. I've done a lot of breath work, and breath work scares me too, because I've also had a lot of tetany, where you get really, really stiff from it. And I think that a friend of mine was just here, a dear friend, and she encouraged me to go. And I really didn't want to go because I was like, oh, I just don't want to have to go back through this feeling. And then on top of it was a cold plunge. And I was like, oh, I like the benefits. I just don't like to ever be cold. I grew up in North Dakota. I don't like to be cold. So it was kind of like this double-edged thing. Why am I talking about this? Because when we went to this facility, they did such an incredible job talking about the breath work. We did the breath work, and I did my little anxiety thing where, I'm like, oh, please don't let me, cripple up. And then I was able to relax into it. And it just means that there's more work for me to do to be in my body and to really be attached to my breath in a different way than what yoga brings or meditation brings. And then we went into the cold plunge, and then she talked all about the somatic benefits of this, and then going into the hot tub, and then going into the sauna, and this circuit. And she spoke about it from a very science perspective, and I won't be able to quote her as well as she did, but she spoke about how it's really helpful for people with anxiety. It's really helpful for people with that fight or flight. So I think it's coming forward because you're dealing with trauma, and trauma is that fight or flight feeling. It is that, whoa, like, how do I, even like when I was in the cold plunge, I felt very grateful that the instructor lady was focused on me, because I was there with two other ladies, focused on me only from the standpoint that she kept pushing my shoulders down, because I kept like wanting to go like this, because it's so cold, and we were in there for 3 minutes. And so it was like training me to just relax into my body, and to really, I don't know if shut down is the right word, but to just let that fear go of, like, oh, I didn't feel fearful actually, but it was just because I was so cold and my whole body was shaking. But it's practice. It's practicing with all of the chemicals that run through our bodies, and that create an additional amped up layer of emotion for us. And so find something that is, even if you haven't already done breath work, I would definitely recommend that. I would also recommend the cold plunge if it resonates for you and it feels right for your own body, because I think what you're going to find is that you're training your system to not only be in your body, to feel in your body somatically, and to not want to jump out of your body. And whatever that means to you, it could be that spiritually, consciously, you want to jump out because you're just so tired of being here in this lower vibrational earth plane. So that I think is going to provide a lot of great practice for you in a way that's not just focused on the trauma, because you don't have to go through all of the trauma stories when you're doing this. You're just like, no, I'm just going to really be in my power of my own body and not let the chemicals and all of the external environment things take over. I'm just going to really be present and really be here. All right. Hopefully that's helpful. I always love to hear in the comments for anyone who's submitted the question, or anyone else that wants to add. Maybe you've done cold plunge. Let me know. Have you done a cold plunge? Have you done breath work and cold plunge and sauna all together at the same time? I would love to hear, and please write your experience. I am no expert at cold plunging, but I definitely see the benefits. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Unless we have more from the studio audience, I'm always happy to take more. Okay, just looking back. Make sure I answered that question. All right. Can I truly maintain a friendship with my ex? This is a tricky one. I think it's so specific, and I wish that you were on live, because I'll feel into your energy of this. But I do think that it's important to have a conscious uncoupling with any of your exes. Sometimes that's possible, and sometimes that's not as possible, because it depends upon where your ex is in their spiritual awakening journey and where you're at and how much you're willing to work on it. I will tell you that the more work you put into it, no, work isn't the right word, the more awareness you bring to this uncoupling, the better off you'll be in your heart to be pure and clean for anyone else coming into your life. And the better off your ex will be, because there are so many cords. And if you're familiar with ethereal life cords, it's a real energetic connection that we have with people. And we oftentimes think, oh yeah, that bonding is so good. Now, I say it like that because I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding about bonding, that when bonding happens because you don't want to be alone, or when bonding happens because you are bonding on a wound, that's not as healthy. It's not healthy for us. And so oftentimes that particular bond is hard to break, and people do things like cord cutting. And I would suggest that you perhaps just look a little bit more into that and think more about dislodging cords, because it's not about cutting cords, because cords can just get so intertwined and intertangled. And if you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, it's totally okay. There's more explanation, I believe, in the Awakening and Healing Handbook that you can get on bethbell.me. But just take it in on a soul level, what I'm saying. And chances are you're probably going to find that there's even more information that comes to you about ethereal life cords and about cord cutting versus cord removal, where we're actually really asking to remove the cords. And when we've done that, then it's really okay to be, if you want to call it, friends with your ex. But I think it's also still just using the discernment around, what's appropriate, what's the appropriate amount of information we share. There's just some real tricky bits that I think are very personal to each person. And if you're in a new relationship, that you're very cognizant of what it is that you're doing with an ex that might impact the person that you're with. Like, would you say all of those things that you're texting them if your beloved was standing right there with you? Have you told your ex about your beloved? Do they know where you're really at with them? Do they know that you're madly in love, unavailable? Do they know that you're, what do they know? And just having a really healthy discernment around, like, well, what do they really need to know? Versus maybe that's something I tell a friend that isn't going to bring back that connection, or maybe even in some cases bring hope to your ex, because maybe they're not doing the work, which is where we started this. It kind of depends upon where are they on their spiritual awakening journey, because if they're not very awake, they may be still really holding a flame for you. And the little things that you do, you may think, oh yeah, they're really innocent, but they're not, because that person is wanting and looking for that validation from you of, do they still care? How much do they still care? Are they still thinking about me? Am I still part of their life? And all of those things then become very much still cord connecting, and that energy is not necessarily, it's not healthy for you or them or a new partner. So hopefully that answers your question. And if there's something more you want me to help you very specifically, yeah, please go on to my website. There's lots of ways we can work together. Okay, gosh, each week we're down to the wire. There's so many more questions here. Is there anyone else left online that wants a question, or anyone in the studio audience? I'm happy to jump for one more there. If not, I'll do a really quick one here on the pre-submitted. I have a colleague at work that I just don't vibe with. No matter what the situation, we are just awkward and at odds. I don't know what to do because I can't not work with the person or avoid them. Yeah, this is a good one, because sometimes we just don't jive. Like sometimes energetically, like we walk into the room, we're just like, oh, there they are. I think that is calling you to dig a little deeper. But what I would do, here's my really quick tip, is sit with yourself, really be intentional about your desire to overcome this feeling. Then when you feel like you have sat with yourself and you really are like, okay, I really want to get to this, and I really want to find a way to resolve it, write to yourself a couple of things that you might say to them and a place that you might say it to them. Meaning, like, I don't know if there's still water coolers in corporate world today, or if you're even in a office like this, but I'm just as an example, it might be like, you know what, the next time I bump into that person at the water cooler, I'm going to say this. And so you've planned it out. Look, it's never going to come out the way that you say it. So don't worry about that. It's going to come out probably discombobulated. But if you've planned it and you have intention behind it, the energy of which you exude, even if you're nervous and whatever, is still going to come forward. So plan something that you would like to say and be vulnerable appropriately. So I'm not saying like you get so vulnerable that then they come in and, go for the jugular. Of course not. But you say something that's vulnerable, like, gosh, I just feel like there's something between us that I just so wish we could move through, because vibrationally or emotionally or whatever the words are that resonate for you, I just don't like that we don't like get along as well as I wish we would. And you just say something like that just brings the pink elephant in the room right in the middle of the room, and just say, I just really wish we could change this, or, is there anything that we could do or talk about, or, would you be open to grabbing a coffee, or, maybe even, a drink after work or whatever. It doesn't have to be alcohol. It can still be a tea or a kombucha or whatever. And just say, I just really would love to work through this. And it doesn't have to be about work. I just want it to be about us. I just want to really help you in your journey in this career or this job or this task. And I'd love for you to help me. And I just feel like if we don't actually address this, it's just going to go on and it's going to get worse. So if you really just address it head on, I think you're going to find that it's going to start to dissolve on its own. And if it doesn't, come back on the show or book a private session and we'll go deeper, because there's definitely something here for you. But I feel like, try this as a first step. Just get really intentional about your desire to heal or change or shift this relationship first before you do any of that conversation. Otherwise, it can potentially just be a little extra wobbly, and it doesn't really need to be. And please come back on the show and let us know how it works. I would love to hear how that happens for you. Okay. All right. Well, we are down to the hour, and each week I am so happy that you're here. Thank you for joining live in the studio audience. Thank you for being live online. And if you're watching on replay, I still love having you. Please make a comment, submit your questions. You can go to bethbell.me/question. There's more in the Awakening and Healing Handbook. There's also the Psychedelics Resource Guide and the Herpes Handbook, and many, many more resources on bethbell.me. And if you haven't already taken the State of the Heart assessment, I think you'll find that it's a little bit fun and definitely brings some tips, tools, techniques to help you with whatever state of the heart you are in. All right. Until next week, I am wishing you much bliss and love on the journey. Namaste.